with CIBC. We have this event coming up, what to expect. We want to make sure that we set your expectations and you know exactly what's going to be coming ahead. First of all, CIBC is hiring. They are looking for a couple of things. Number one is they're looking for people who have experience in customer service or maybe sales. And more importantly, they're looking for people who have experience, whether it's in a finance or accounting role, a banking role, a role where maybe you've had cash handling experience. Not to say that customer service and sales experience alone is bad, but definitely if you have additional experience already in the finance or banking sector, that is going to increase your chances of being able to secure employment there. And they're really largely looking for people, and what they want to see from you are two major abilities. Number one is you know how to engage their clients. This is all about working with CIBC clients, whether it's in a branch or as a call center representative. So you're constantly going to be working with clients. And then secondly is problem solving. At the end of the day, every client is coming to you because they have something they need help with. So they want to make sure, or they want to ensure that you have the ability to be able to listen, interact with the client, and help them get what they're looking for. Now, what I want to kind of do is really set your expectations on what this hiring event is about, but even more importantly, how hiring works at CIBC. Now, this is, a bit of a different hiring event from maybe what you would have been used to in the past. Normally, you might have gone to a hiring event where there's actually employers and they're literally hiring on the spot. They meet you, they interview you, and they might even say, okay, great, we want you to come in and start working for us. That's not how it works with major banks. A bank will never, almost never, I don't want to say never, but almost never hire you on the spot. They have a lot of formal processes that they need to follow. So I just want to be clear, when you come to this event, nobody's going to give you a job offer during that event. The banks, when they hire people, they have a process that they need to follow. However, just because you're not going to be hired on the spot doesn't mean that this is not going to be a valuable event for you. What we're going to help to explain to you is how this event is actually going to help you work and advance through their hiring process. So let's talk about how it normally works. Normally, if you want to get a job at CIBC, the first step that you need to do is you go and you apply online. You go to their corporate website, to their careers page, you look at the job opportunities, you send an application. It's the human resources, what we call HR. They're the ones that look at the hundreds and hundreds of applications, and they decide, okay, these seem to be the top ones. We're going to meet with them. It could be a phone interview, it could be a virtual interview, it could be an in-person interview, but what they're really doing is they're identifying who the top talent are from these hundreds and hundreds of people that are applying. Now, if you get past HR, their job is to basically take your resume and put it in front of a hiring manager. I want to be clear here. At CIBC, human resources does not hire people. It's hiring managers. Hiring managers, what does that mean? Well, if it's in a call center, there's going to be a manager who's responsible to hire people to work in the call center. If it's a branch, it's probably a branch manager. They're the ones that make the decision on who's going to be hired. If it's a corporate office, again, there might be some sort of office manager there, or general manager, or whatnot. But the idea is in CIBC, it's not human resources that does the hiring. They identify the talent that they know their managers are looking for, and then they take a few of those talent, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, and they put it in front of the hiring manager, and it's the hiring managers that decide. Now, the challenge with this, like with any other company when you apply online, you're literally competing with hundreds of other job seekers. So when you go and you apply, there's probably hundreds of other people. It's hard for you to get noticed. As a refugee, you're already facing a lot of different barriers. So this is really a very difficult way to get hired at CIBC. So, however, CIBC is very interested in actually hiring refugees. Not every organization has these diversity and inclusion mandates. We're fortunate that CIBC does, and they really have worked closely with Jumpstart to organize these types of events because they're interested in hiring refugees. Their HR team, we work very closely with them. This is actually the third event that we've done. They want to champion refugees. They want CIBC to hire refugees. They look at all kinds of diversity and inclusion. Here's just some numbers. About a third of all CIBC staff are actually visible minorities. More than half of all their staff are women. Almost half of their board are women. So they really try to encourage diversity and inclusion. In fact, many of the HR team, the talent team here in Toronto, are actually refugees or immigrants themselves. So they're really passionate and they really want to work with you so that you can succeed. So what we've done is we've teamed up with CIBC to put on these events. And again, it's a way to support you to navigate their hiring process so that you can overcome barriers and not have to compete with hundreds of other job seekers to get noticed. What's going to happen is that you're going to meet with the HR team. They call themselves talent partners. So you're going to meet with a CIBC talent partner during our event. It's going to be very short. We call these speed interviews. So you'll only really have about 10 minutes. This is your opportunity to impress them. What happens is the talent partners are there to identify people that they want to champion throughout the hiring process. So with the people that they're going to be very impressed with, they're going to work to really help you get through the hiring process. After the event, so after you've done your speed interview and we finished with the event, every single person will get a call from the talent team where they're going to debrief with you about your speed interview. It's not going to be immediately after the event. It'll probably be the following week. And they'll just give you some feedback on how you did. What are some of the things that you should work on, and for those that they were really impressed with, what they're going to do is they're going to ask you to apply to specific positions on their website. And then what they want you to do is to actually let them know that you've applied. So now you're in their system, they know that you're in their system, and they can go and grab your file. Now they've got your file. They're going to work hard to make sure that they can take your resume and your application and put it in front of hiring managers. And then once it's in front of a hiring manager, again, I want to repeat that part of the process hasn't changed, that the hiring managers will meet with a few candidates, and the hiring managers are the ones that are going to decide who to hire. But essentially, what all of this doing, what does this mean? Number one is if you're being flagged at this event by one of these CIBC talent partners, what it really means is you've got a champion on the inside. You have somebody working inside the bank. They want to help you get hired. And who better than somebody inside a company trying to help you get hired than somebody in human resources? So that's what you're going to get. And these talent partners want to help refugees. They want to remove those barriers and they want to help you get noticed. So when they see opportunities that are relevant for you become available, they're essentially going to put you on the short list. Remember how we said there's only 3 to 5 candidates that actually make it in front of a hiring manager? You're now going to be one of those 3 to 5 people. So you're no longer competing with hundreds of other job seekers anymore. You're just competing with 4 or 5 people every time an opportunity opens up. Basically, what that means is if we look at their normal hiring practices, we basically got rid of the first 2 steps. You no longer need to, you would have already met with HR, they know you, they like you, they know how talented you are. You don't need to, you don't have all these hundreds of other people that you need to compete with anymore. And they're going to do their best that they can to put your resume in front of a hiring manager any chance they get where that opportunity you're a good fit for. And then the rest is really up to you. Number 4, that's up to you. Once you get that interview, it'll be up to you to impress the hiring manager. But by by, hopefully engaging with the talent partners and getting noticed by them, you're basically going to have somebody on the inside helping you get interviews and get in front of hiring managers. And what I also want to point out is it's not just a one-shot deal. Some of these opportunities are not going to be available tomorrow or next week. It depends on when these opportunities open up. And I'll talk a little bit about that once I talk to you about the 3 positions that they're hiring for. But these hiring managers have told me flat out, they want you to follow up with them. They want you to touch base, every few weeks. Hi, how's it going? Just wanted to see how things are going over at CIBC. My situation is still the same. This is the kind of stuff that I'm working on. I would love to know if there's opportunities that opened up. They want you to stay on touch with them because they want to champion you and they're looking for you to be proactive. And they're going to continue kind of work just like how Jumpstart would take you on as clients and work to support you. Well, you're going to essentially be their clients, and they're going to be working to help you find a job within CIBC. So let me talk to you a little bit about the 3 positions. And then after I've done that, I'll talk a bit about the event, and I might even open it up for just a few quick questions before we get to the Q&A portion in case we have any question about the CIBC stuff. So first of all, there's 2 kinds of customer service representative positions. One is a bank teller. So it basically means you're working inside a branch. And then the other one is in a call center. So that's where you would be working and taking calls over the phone. Like we've all had to call our bank. So you know what that's like. There's somebody on the other end of the line giving you help. So those are the 2 different kinds. Now, I know a lot of people would normally gravitate to, I want to work inside a bank. I don't want to work on the phone. I just want to give you some considerations and encourage you to be a little more open-minded about why you want to maybe consider both options. So let me explain that to you. First of all, in terms of banks, there's going to be far fewer positions available to you. Each branch might only be hiring a handful of people every year. And the opportunities that these CIBC talent partners are going to be looking for are limited to the branches around you. So when that's why we're going to ask you for your postal code. They're going to look for maybe the 3 or 4 branches that are really close to you. And if there's job openings, they're going to try to get you in front of a hiring manager. But they're not going to be looking at a branch that's in Brampton if you live in Scarborough. So they're only going to be looking at a few branches that are close by. And as I said, there's only a few openings that happen every year. So I just want you to keep in mind that there'll be fewer positions. And because there's hundreds of CIBC locations across the GTA, that means there's hundreds of hiring managers. So the talent partners have less ability to influence them and say, look, I've got a, really talented refugee, and refugees are great, and you should really consider this person, because there's hundreds and hundreds of these people. They don't have necessarily close relationships with all of them. So that's one thing I just want you to keep in mind, that yes, it's great to work at a branch, but it just means that the opportunities might take a lot longer and they may be a little fewer. The next opportunity is a very similar position, but it's a contact center. Now, the thing about contact centers is there's only a handful of these contact centers across the GTA. So maybe just 2, 3, 4, and they're usually going to have many more positions to fill. Unlike the person at the branch who might be filling a position now, and then 3 months from now he might fill another position, and 6 months later she might fill another position. These call centers might have 10, 15, 20 spots that they're looking to fill. So there's going to be a lot more positions available here. And because there's only very few call centers, there's a lot fewer hiring managers. So the talent partners actually have the ability to work with them a bit more closely and really influence them to give consideration to you. So I just wanted you to keep those 2 opportunities in mind. I'm not telling you to choose one or the other. I'm just trying to give you the information so that you can appreciate where the opportunities are. The last option is a financial service representative. Now, these are a bit different from the other 2 roles. The other 2 roles are more like career entry. This is the first, entry point usually when you're working within a bank. It's usually to work directly with the clients at the teller or at the contact center level. So these will be for people that have a lot more specialized skills and are usually for far more advanced candidates. So if you've actually already been pursuing a career in banking for a really long time, this might be a role that's more appropriate for you. Now, I just want to point out that for these roles, you actually need to be accredited for a mutual funds license. There's two kinds of courses that CIBC is interested in. One is called a Canadian Securities course, and the other one is called the IFIC, Investment Funds in Canada. Canadian Securities courses, I think, is 2 classes, and the fee is a bit higher, where the IFIC is much quicker to complete, and it's also much lower. But in any case, you cannot get a job in a more advanced role, and especially this financial service role, without having this accreditation. So just some advice for you: if you are already in the banking sector or come with a banking background and you really want to advance your career in banking, you should strongly consider taking a look at these accreditations, because the big banks will ask for these if you want to get into more advanced roles. Because of your advanced skills and your accreditation, it also means you'll work with a variety of more advanced products, whether it's like RSPs or mutual funds or things like that a normal teller wouldn't work with. And because, again, they would also provide you with a lot more opportunities to advance your banking career, because these are certifications or accreditations that are highly sought after by the big banks. So I've told you a bit about the roles, what to expect. Let me tell you what comes next in terms of this event and this opportunity with CIBC. So after this, our prep workshop, so early next week, you're going to get a call from somebody from the Jumpstart team. We want to do 3 things. Number 1 is we just want to make sure that your communication skills are good enough. Usually, we're talking about CLB level 6 here. Client engagement, we talked about that. That's the number 1 thing that is very important in terms of attributes to CIBC. So if your communication skills aren't there, you're likely going to struggle to convince CIBC and be able to succeed at working at the bank. The second thing is we're going to ask you for your postal code, because that's not information we normally collect from you. And we're going to ask you what positions that you're interested in. This information will be given to the CIBC team so that they can, hopefully have a better understanding of what opportunities make sense for you based on your location and the positions that you're interested in. And lastly, it's an opportunity to answer your questions. Yes, we're going to do some question answering today. This will be an opportunity to work one-on-one with you and just see if there's any questions that we can answer for you. So after you receive that call from us, we're going to send a list of applicants to CIBC. I want to be very clear here. They're going to decide who they're going to invite to their event. We don't make that decision, it's CIBC. So roughly on October 23rd, that's when you can expect to hear back. CIBC will let us know who they want to bring to this event. Just to let you know, we've got over 60 people attending our event today. For this event, it'll be 30 most likely will get invited. So not everybody will get an invite. So you'll get an invite to the event on the 29th. So the event is going to be virtual, take place on Zoom, not unlike today. And then you'll attend the event on the 29th. Let me give you some more information about the event and what you can expect. The event is going to be Thursday, October 29. It's going to be from 12:30 to 2:30, and it will be hosted on Zoom. There's going to be 2 parts to this event. One is the main room. So you would walk into the main room. There's going to be a 15 minutes, welcomes and introductions. And then in that main room, we're going to have 4 sessions that are going to be led by senior staff and executives at CIBC. They really want to give you these, they're going to give you a short presentation, and then they'll open it up to the floor so you can discuss, comments or questions that you have. And this is really about trying to educate and engage you on topics that are related to how you can enter into the banking industry, how you can succeed in the banking industry. So yes, we're doing this, interview piece, but we also want to make sure that you learn as much as you can from these, really talented and senior people at CIBC. So we're going to be conducting these education sessions. As these education sessions are going to be happening, we're going to have 4 rooms out on the side. Those are our private interview rooms. And you're going to be called in at some point as those presentations are happening in the main room when it's your turn. I'll be honest with you, right now we don't know when your turn is. So it might come near the beginning of the event, it might be in the middle, it might be coming at the end. We can't control that, and you can't really ask for it. CIBC is going to set the schedule. So you just need to be tuned in that whole event and make sure that your attention is there, because it's going to happen very fast where somebody is just going to move you into the private room, introduce you to the talent partners so that you can do your 10-minute interview. And then once your speed interview is done, then you would get moved back into the main room. So that's what you can expect in terms of the event. I'm sure, again, that you might have some questions. I'll just leave you with some last thoughts, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague here, Mustafa, who's actually going to help give you some tips on how to interview well. But again, this is a different type of hiring event. What you're trying to do is impress an HR, a talent person at CIBC. If you're able to do that, that's your champion on the inside. They're going to then work for you. They're going to try to find opportunities that really fit in. And once those opportunities happen, they're going to get you on the short list. So you're only, again, competing with maybe 3 or 4 other 5 people when you get introduced, when you get called in for an interview by a hiring manager. So this is really a great opportunity to have somebody inside CIBC rooting for you, working for you, and trying to find, help you start your banking career with CIBC. I'll now pass it over to my colleague Mustafa, who will actually go into interview preparation. So just give us a second as we make this handover.
I'm just going to write a message to everyone.
Shut down. I want you to shut down. Shut down. Stop. Shut down your share screen.
I'll mute him.
Is he muted?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm really sorry. I was talking to myself for about like a few minutes. So good to repeat. So my name is Mustafa Alio, and I'm the Managing Director for Jumpstart Refugee Talent. I want to thank Malaz for the time, and I hope his insights in topic were helpful. I also wanted to encourage everyone that by the time I finish my part, and I promise I'll try to make it as quick as possible, please do type your questions. And I want to thank you for your patience, just kind of for us to deal with the technical difficulties. So for some of you, or maybe some not, if they know or not, I came to Canada back in the day as a refugee myself. And I think what also gave me a little bit more advantage to give insights on this kind of job, because I did work for TD Bank as a financial advisor for about 2 years. So I know that kind of, the whole process inside out. I've gone through it. I've been also with hiring managers and other people, or even kind of hiring managers or HR in the banks. And I deal on a daily basis with a lot of our partners from the, who are employers or HR partners. So what I wanted today to basically my part to be in terms of like, how can we do that interview a little bit better? How can you impress on the HR people? And again, while we, as Malaz mentioned in his presentation, usually, I mean, the interview process or to get a job, it's about like 4 steps as we explained there. So you need to apply online, all of this. And while our role is just trying to kind of bypass you or do 50% of the work, which is, trying to have your profile to be viewed and picked by an HR people, and then trying to be presented to a hiring manager. And then you don't have to compete with hundreds of resumes that being put on online if you apply online. However, at the same time, we cannot control basically your performance, and that's going to be on you. And then that needs, I mean, I'm not going to say a lot of preparation. Really, it would need just a little bit of preparation, just that you need to be smart about it. And I think you'll do very well in this. So what I wanted to go here, just kind of for the pre-interview, it's really important when you're interviewing, and then when the HR people, basically when you talk to HR people, they kind of live, breathe, and work in terms of, the company they are in. They know the things inside out. And then they would know right away if someone actually looked their website. You might think that, there are 5 banks in Canada and they are almost the same. Actually, to the most aspect of it, it might be true, but then look a little bit deeper into the details of each bank. Actually, they are a little bit different in terms of how they present themselves, in terms of how they would like to be seen in terms of their clients, and even the people, their internal clients, which are the employees. So basically reviewing the websites and looking at the programs and the product and the services, and even to go to the annual report of the CIBC and somehow try to compare it and maybe read 1 or 2 articles of what make CIBC different than the other banks. I think that would go along the way. That would be a great tool for you to enable a better communication skills and better answers if they ever, come up with kind of question, what we call it, a little bit out of the box questions. Definitely reviewing the career and job posting on the CIBC is very important. It's also very important for you to kind of know and kind of read how they write those job descriptions. How do they write about the roles they want? And this is something like, if you know the language around it, and if you can use that language as much as possible in your answers or your conversation with the HR, again, this is something they kind of, they work on every day, and that would benefit you tremendously. I think the last one is definitely to visit peer review and sites and career and inside. And there are websites like Glassdoor or Career Insiders, and those kind of websites, what you get from it, you get actually reviews and kind of an insider tips from employees within the organization. They give you a little bit more insights about the organization in general, and that also would enrich your conversation and your information when you go and you do the interview with the HR people. And I mean, here also with the pre-interview, there are three things really when an HR, just kind of to make it a little bit simple. They are three things that an HR person try to kind of get from having a conversation with you. The first one is that they want to make sure that you have the right communication. Second, in general, that you are committed and you have the commitment and passion to work, for example, with the bank or even for this role. And I think that the last one is that whether you are a good fit or not for the position. So, whatever now those questions that you're going to see it in this slides and the slide after, kind of some of them go under one of those things. So when you say review job description and make sure that you meet the minimum requirement, and how well do you fit the job description, those kind of questions, when the HR person going to tell you is like, tell me about yourself and all of that, this kind of question they want to test and see how your communication level. And communication doesn't mean only that you have a good language skills. Communication is also how do you present yourself? How do you present the information? How excited are you when you're presenting those for information, and how open and how good your listening skills are? Because sometimes even they might ask a question. There are a lot of time where we end up trying to speak more than what they ask us, or even kind of go a little bit and sideway the question. I mean, the other thing, what are the skills and abilities and qualities you have that benefit the organization? It's really important kind of, to take a moment and think about some of the skills and then abilities that makes you different than others, that make you passionate about the job. And you know what, if you read about CIBC, I'm pretty sure with every bank at those five, they always have a cool program. So if there is something that you feel you're connected to, it's really important to mention it on the organization. The other thing, why are you better than fit? I know that a lot of times, especially with these questions, that maybe we seems to be very humble, but this is really kind of not the things that an HR person looking for. They want to see that hunger you have in you. They want to see why you are the best fit in that way. So it's really important to kind of, pick a few things to talk about yourself and why would you the best fit for this position they're interviewing with you. And this is kind of goes, and even the second one, I also put it kind of, put it on the top here as a communication commitment and good fit for the position, your top three strengths. It's really important. And I think what the advantage that we have as a refugees is that basically we have a lot of stories. And there is one thing, like if there is anything I can stress, is that HR people and hiring managers, they actually love stories. When you go and then you try to answer them a question, or you try to present something you want to tell it, and then you bring as an example, like story that we've gone through as an example, I think that would be the best thing you can do. So those are some of the also kind of, things that you need to prepare for, your three top strengths, 2 to 5 situational stories. They will ask you about situational stories in a way, why you want to work for the organization. Please have, like a little bit more a transparent and honest and kind of truthful answer. Like those kind of questions where people think that, it's just a general question or general answer, and then those HR people hear always the same answers from many people. So if you are a little bit different, if you're really kind of passionate about the answer or what exactly you want to say, and if you put some thought into it, I think you will position yourself kind of far from the general answers that they hear on a daily basis. Why are you the best candidates? I think we'll talk about this, and tell them who you are. The way, and even when we're telling stories, like every time is like, telling your past history, what you're passionate about, what kind of motivate you, the long-term aspirations. those also, you can bring the personal aspect to it, but always be cautious that it has always to be a work-related or career-related answers. And this is also, we're just repeating the same way, but again, like it's just important for you. I think I'm just gonna summarize it back into this. It's about, your communication skills, how you present yourself, how committed and passionate are you to work for a bank or in this, or specifically for CIBC in this position, and and then good fit, which is kind of what background do you have. You need to let them know whether on kind of like as Manaz mentioned, the CSC, the Canadian Security Scores, or EFIC, the investment fund, basically Canada, and those kind of like courses, or even other like relevant experiences. So this is kind of, they know how, if you are a good fit for the position or not. And those are basically one important, and just Manaz now reminding me that actually the question, you see it on the screen. So even if you can't take a screenshot on it, those are the questions actually were sent to us by CIBC people. So in a way that even this is the extra support that they're like, this is how committed and serious about trying to hiring refugees. It's kind of, they send us a sheet that those are the questions they asked in our last kind of event when they did kind of like a one-on-one with people. So most likely those are the questions they would ask you again, or at least most of them they would ask you in the upcoming event on the 29th. And again, like it's really maybe one of the tips I can give you usually when I go and then try to prepare for my interviews, really try to write down the answer for each of those questions and then just kind of review it. You don't have, definitely it's better if you practice it out loud, but it doesn't matter the way you want to practice it. But when you write it down, you always have the chance to re-edit and then to make it a little bit better. If you have it in your head, you don't have to memorize it, but just if you write it down, you kind of practice it a little bit, I think you will do really good on it. And again, in a way that always show that you're, be a little bit more kind of, I think my advice to be a little bit bubbly, be outgoing, showing them that passion and why you really need the job and what you're trying to get out of this if you get the job. I think the last way in a way in interviews, and I know because and we are in weird times right now and different times in a way, so things are changing in terms of the interview, but many people also one of the mistakes that they're doing, because it's virtual interview, it doesn't mean that you can be casual about it, or you can be because at the end those kind of small details, that's what they pay attention to in a way. So basically dressing properly, even though it's going to be on the screen, that would be an absolute requirement. And also that would bring, basically it shows like those kind of things that without you saying anything, it shows how serious and how committed you are. So, you don't have to arrive 15 minutes early. At the end, you are in a virtual setting. So definitely just make sure that you have a good connections, that you have, maybe you can have a phone number that will provide you at that point. If you they can call you or you can call back. So we'll try to kind of assess it with you, just make sure that you have the right connections. Having the business card is not going to work here on virtual setting, but definitely it's really important to make an eye contact. Like when you're talking to an interviewer, really try to make an eye contact. I know there is no eye in front of you, but definitely on the camera, this is something that you can try your best, just kind of to look at the camera and just, try to imagine that literally you're talking to the person, because that's what they're looking at when you're looking at the camera. Find an opportunity to share your story. And also, it's really important to do your best to share. And again, that's what I say. One of the strengths, I think, or I'm not going to say strength, but one of the different things that we have as refugees, that we have compelling stories or resilience. We have stories that people usually don't hear often. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that also you got to be careful. Like it's not kind of, I just want to share my story at any point. Is that you need to be smart about picking the time and picking the portion and be straight to the point. And, if it doesn't happen, if they don't ask, or you not feel there was a point that you can share your story, that's fine. But just kind of, be aware, do your best to share it at the right time. take a moment to think about the response. It's always okay, not kind of, you know, again, one of the most common mistakes that a lot of people, when we get asked a question, we start kind of answering the question and like another question, or sometimes we're trying to answer a complete different question. So really take a moment just kind of to sink in, to listen to the question, think about it for a few seconds, and then start answer. One also the most common mistake, and this kind of a deadly mistake, when an interviewer asks you if you have any question, if you say no, I can guarantee you guys, it's almost going to be like no for them. I mean, if you say no to questions, it is also no for them. So it's super important for you to have a question, and please try to think of a good question, something that would, you know, you're curious about, that you want to know more about, not kind of what, I mean, there are some of those questions. When are we going to hear about this? When are we going to get connected? Those are the regular one. Try to come up really with a question that you really want the answer for, from CIBC, from your reading, all of that. That shows that you're prepared. When you come up with a question that really has a kind of curiosity in it, or something that you want to know, that shows that you're going above and beyond, and definitely you sit down and you read and then you prepare for it. Virtual interview, I think those are some of the tips that we have for virtual interview. Again, press properly, be there. I mean, you definitely be there. We're just trying to take you, and try please to be on time, and maybe you log in to the whole webinar about 5 minutes before, just to make sure that you have the right connection. Ensure that you or your space won't be disrupted. I mean, it's very important that also you be in a space. I know it might be hard in a way, like this is kind of a little bit a tricky area. I know, and especially when we're talking about, you know, a woman and girl, it's not easy to kind of, you know, if they have a kids, or if they are at home, or even others, in a way that just kind of to be in an area that is completely quiet. But please do your best that to be in a space that's a little bit quiet. That would definitely increase the chances and will avoid any kind of disturbance that might happen. Even like we talk here about the background, even though, I mean, it's easy, I'm not sure if some of you, but definitely you can look up, for example, having a professional background, and just, I mean, right now I have just the regular background that we have in the office, but if you don't, I mean, it's easy kind of to find something as a background and put it there, like a wall. If you don't have a wall, but you can always find a virtual background and put it. And listen, you can be creative with those virtual background, but just try your best to be a professional virtual background. I think also that kind of speak and kind of pay attention to a little bit more details. Connect by the phone if you lose it. If you plan to screen share, ensure that your desktop is clean. If you want to screen share and conduct yourself like in a word, really try to consider that virtual interview, like you're doing it in person. In that way, it's your best, just trying to connect with the person on the other side, show your passion, really try your best, just kind of, you know, to think about it as a just like in-person interview. That's my end. I really wish you luck for all of you. Again, all what I wanted to say is that a little bit of preparation when you meet with the HR people, and Manas mentioned it, you know, getting an HR person to like you and to be impressed, and then to, you know, basically you're having champion from inside the organization, that if it doesn't happen this time, but I'm pretty sure you would have a chance to always follow up. You also would be you know, you would have something more kind of a peace of mind that there is someone who's trying to advocate on behalf of you from the inside the bank, and you can do some follow-up in there. I hope that you're doing well, then you're staying safe, and I wish really the best for all of you. We will do our best from our side to kind of, you know, try to get CIBC to hire as many refugees as possible. We'll keep working also with other maybe opportunities, so stay tuned, stay connected with what we post, and we would be happy to take the questions you have.
Thank you. So Mustafa and I are, as you can see, next to each other here. Because we're one computer short because of Mustafa's technical difficulties, we're going to try to keep a little bit of physical distancing between us, but we're going to also take your questions. So let me please introduce Charlotte. Charlotte is our communications and marketing person here at Jumpstart Refugee Talent, and she's going to be moderating the question and answer period. I know we're getting up to 6:30, and Charlotte has given me the thumbs up. She said, it's okay, Malaz, we can run long. So if those of you need to leave at 6:30, feel free to do so, but we'll stay on a little past 6:30 to try to answer as many of your questions as we can. And Charlotte will now pass it over to you and to help manage our Q&A session.
Great, thank you. So just as a little housekeeping, you can feel free to raise your hands now, and I will see that in our chat, and I will allow you to talk if you want to answer a question live. You can also feel free to type them in the Q&A. So we have a few Q&A questions that have already been submitted to us, so we'll start going through those, and feel free to continuously send us questions. So one of our questions is, how does CIBC decide who will attend the hiring event, and what does this depend on?
Sure. So great question, Charlotte. At the end of the day, they're largely going to be looking at the resumes that you've provided us with. They're going to be looking at some of those qualifications that were talked about. They want to see that you have customer service or sales experience. They're definitely very interested in anyone who's got previous finance or banking or cash handling experience. Beyond that, I mean, it's tough for me to say anything beyond that. They're the ones who are going to decide, but these are the two things that they're really going to look mostly at. They're going to look at your resume, and they're going to look to see that you have these kind of experiences from your past.
And also, it's good to add that, I mean, it's really on them to choose who would be there, but also I'm pretty sure, confident that we would be able to send them more than 30 resumes of qualified people. Today we're seeing about 68 or even more people attended this session. And just also, I wanted to say, this is not the last event we're doing with CIBC. That's going to be a recurrent event we're doing with the bank and with other banks. So I mean, we would love for all of you to come, but again, like just 30, this is the max that we thought a virtual setting could handle. So if you don't get invited this time for whatever reason, we assure you that we'll do our best just kind of to be part of the event after, whether with CIBC or with any other employer.
Okay, so we have someone raising their hand. We have Ika Chukwu. So I'll allow you to talk. And then if you just want to unmute yourself, and you can ask your question.
Yes, hi. So Ikechukwu, we need you to mute. We see your hand raised. If you want, just please unmute yourself. We cannot control your microphone. Unmute, and we'd be happy to take your question. Okay, so having a little challenge there. So maybe you can lower Ikechukwu's hand and just move on to the next. Oh, no, maybe we have you. I see you're unmuted now. Are you there? No, you're muted again. Okay, all right. Let's move on to the next question.
We have a lot more people raising their hands.
Sure.
So we can answer Raghad Khatan.
Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I would like to ask about the call center employee. Are they gonna work from home, or they have to go to the...
Thank you for that. I did see that question. It was typed actually, so we were going to answer that. The short answer is I don't know. We're going to talk to CIBC. We'll definitely try to communicate that before the event. I know working with some organizations, some have their people, call center people working from home. Some have them still going into the office. Some are doing a half-half. I don't know what CIBC's plans are, but we'll look into that and we'll get back to you. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read some of the other Q&A questions. So Stanley asks, do you mean that somebody cannot be interviewed for a financial representative position if you are not accredited or certified?
That's pretty much right, Stanley. You need those qualifications. Now, at the same time, look, this it's different when we talk about what interview means, right? If we're talking about the speed interview with the HR team, if you don't have that qualification right now, because nobody ever told you, you need it, and you're somebody with, really extensive, because remember, these are advanced roles. So if you're somebody with an advanced background, but you don't have that, that would not stop you from letting the HR team know that this is what you're interested in. And I think they want to meet with really advanced and people with a lot of experience, but meeting with an actual hiring manager, 100% you will not get an interview for these positions. It's like me going in to become a professor at a university and they require a PhD. Well, if I don't have a PhD, I'm not even there's no chance for me to get the interview. So yes, these FSR, these financial service rep positions, they require you to have that accreditation. It won't stop you from being able to, again, if you're somebody with lots of experience in banking, to let the HR team know that during our event you want to talk about this position, that's fine. But down the line, they're not going to be able to put your resume in front of somebody unless either you've completed it or you've at least started it. Then it wouldn't be possible.
So Stanley, also I want to add to that, and thank you for the question. It's very important for everyone that want to pursue a banking opportunity. So when I actually start applying for bank back in the day, that was an issue. I wasn't getting a lot of interview, but when I completed one of those courses, actually that was a lot easier. When I chatted with the HR people, when I had a chat with them from CIBC, on the position, if you go and then you apply online, actually it says that, if you are to be hired for this, you have about 90 days to complete it. But actually on the ground, this is not really happening because they get a lot of other resumes and people who already completed or even registered. However, what we agreed on with the HR people from CIBC when I had a chat with them, just given the circumstances that some refugees or even many refugees don't even have the financial capacity, for example, to apply for it, or even, they did not know about it before. So what actually they told me is like, they are willing to put some more efforts into convincing a hiring manager to interview if the person they interview would at least register for one of those courses. So, but at the same time, it's not on us to tell you that go ahead and register. This is a completely decision that everyone needs to make on their own, that if they want to pursue a career in banking. But if that's something you're serious about in terms of, banking and as an FSR or financial advisor, I think personally, that's my own personal opinion coming from that industry. I strongly encourage you to register for it. And when we call you, if any of you is interested in that position and you register for it, just let us know so we can flag it to the HR people to say, listen, this person already registered for that course before the 29th, which is the event.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions. I'll just address one of the questions we got during the presentations that, thank you all for patiently waiting. So this question is, are we going to have a mock interview with Jumpstart staff as a preparation before the main CIBC interview?
Unfortunately not. Everybody will receive a PowerPoint on the portion that Mustafa presented. So we're going to send you a copy. In that, we give you the list of questions that you should be preparing for any interview. Like, we talked about what are your 3 strengths that you bring to the job. You should know that when you walk into an interview. You should have 2 to 3, 4 stories already lined up. They're going to ask you a customer service question about, a tough time that, you had a difficult customer with a problem. How did you fix it? You should already have those stories ready, 3, 4 of them, just in your back pockets. When somebody asks that question, you always need to be prepared with them. And then there's the actual 5 questions that CIBC asked during our last event. As Mustafa said, there's quite a good chance that these are going to be the exact same questions that they're going to ask you during this 10 minutes. So take those questions. Practice. If you want to do a mock interview, I would say practice with somebody that you're close to. Unfortunately, we're not doing in-person events right now. everything's virtual and we're not able to do mock interviews. We'd love to be able to do something like that in the future, but not at this time. So use the questions. We're going to send you the PowerPoint, practice all of that stuff, and hopefully that'll be the best way to prepare for this event.
Okay, so we got a question from Ikechuku earlier over the chat. So he asks, I got cut off, I'm using my wife's Zoom. Since I don't have the required qualification for a financial advisor from what you have explained, can I apply for the position of customer service representative pending when I'm able to get the certification and reapply?
That's a good question. I mean, what they basically have told that's, I mean, ultimately what you're trying to do and what we're trying to help you with as well, or support you with, is you're trying to get your foot in the door. That's the hardest thing to do. When you just go and you do it cold by applying online, there's 300 other people at the door. Really tough to get your foot in the door. So this is what we want to try to do, is help you, number one, impress somebody at CIBC. So now you've got your foot in the door, and then they're going to work for you to try to get, your foot into a job interview. So this is what it's all about. I'm getting, what was it? Can you repeat the question again?
So, and again, yes, I mean, the short answer is that, so you can go as a customer service and apply for it. And yes, I can tell you one thing, that in the bank, when I worked in the bank, a lot of promotion for FSR happened from the customer service or the teller team or even the contact center. Because once they get into the bank, they actually start doing those courses on their own. Again, it's not courses, it's actually one course that you can literally do it on your own, a few hours a week, and can do it in a month, especially if your background in kind of business or finance. So the short answer is yes, you can apply for that, and then from that point on. However, the only thing that you need to be aware of is that when you get into a bank, you need at least about 8 months for you to be eligible to apply to a new position. So this is something also just kind of to keep in mind. I mean, the other way around it, some people, what they do, they just go in the bank, they get it. If they get the course really before the 8 months, they might make an exception, or you might even apply for a different banks at that point because you have a lot of experience. But it's still most likely, for the most common things, it's about 8 months to a year where you can apply for different positions. But yes, it could be a good tactic that you can access as a teller or a contact center. Then from that point, you can start applying for financial service rep or any other position.
And thank you for that. I got, lost a little bit when I was trying to think of what I meant by get your foot in the door. But, as you pointed out, then yes, once you start, even if you start as a customer service rep, you basically have your foot in the door. You're inside CIBC. It's much easier to get access to job openings and be considered if you're already a CIBC employee versus not. Most organizations like to hire from within. Many organizations advertise some postings just for internal CIBC staff. They don't even advertise them externally. So yes, it could be very advantageous to do that. But as Mustafa said, keep in mind, once you get into your first role, they have a period of around 6 to 8 months or longer before they allow you to move. So keep that in mind. Next question.
Okay, we've gotten a few questions from Babatunde, so I'll allow you to talk and you can ask a few of your questions live. If you could just unmute yourself. And if not, then I'll ask them manually. So one of the questions is, let's see. Oh, we have a lot of questions. Okay, I'll move on to a different question for now. This is from Rosemary. I'd like to know whether CIBC has a timeline in finding suitable people for the positions. You mentioned us continuing in dialogue when finding a talent partner. Do we have a rough timeline for this?
I mean, good questions. Again, these are great questions. Somebody asked a question like, what's a good question to ask CIBC? That is a great question. So thank you for that. There is no real timeline. It all really depends on what these opportunities are. Again, I just want to set your expectations. Don't be under the illusion that you're going to go and do this event and then the next week you're going to get a job interview, you're going to get a job. these things take time, especially depending on the role. So again, let's take the example of branch manager. They're going to be looking at the 3, 4, 5 banks around your area. You know, if those banks aren't hiring, well, there's no immediate opportunities there. And then once one of those banks has an opportunity, they're going to become aware of it, and they're going to go to those hiring managers, and they're going to try to put your name amongst maybe 4 or 5 other people. So sometimes these things might take time. Again, that's why I said, you know, think about the call center opportunity, because there tends to be a lot more of those positions available. But the timeline, I mean, we're talking about, it could be months. So I would not say, you know, okay, you're going to go do this and that's it, put all of your eggs in the CIBC basket. No, continue doing everything else that you're doing. And what you're really trying to do here is just get your foot inside the door, find, you know, impress, you know, a CIBC HR person, and they're just going to continue working for you. And you just touch base with them every once in a while to make sure they remember you and they don't forget about you, and that they, you know, should be looking for you. But I would say, you know, we're talking in the span of weeks, and maybe, you know, could be, you know, months, not in the span of days, just to kind of, you know, answer the timeline question.
And also I want to be mindful for everyone's time. Is it 6:30?
We already told everybody we're staying.
Okay, so we're staying late, and we're happy to answer the question. There was one question that actually, even on the top Charlotte story, kind of got my eye, where someone say that he or she has basically a CSC, the Canadian Security Scores, but every time like interviewed and then getting rejected because he or she doesn't have a Canadian experience. Is that the case? I think, listen, everyone experience is different. When I got my CSC course at that point, I did not have a Canadian experience, nor a Canadian education. I graduated from Syria back home in business when I came here. I think really a difference. There is no such a thing called Canadian experience, nor employers should ask you this question. I think what happened in some of those interviews is that many of us, and especially refugees, and I made those mistakes many times, we volunteer information. We kind of volunteer information in a way that makes us look weak. I've been here, so for example, like, you know, when you go and you tell an interviewer, oh, I've been here for a year. I mean, in a way, as if like you're making an excuse for yourself that I don't know much because I've been here for a year. This is not an information that the interviewer asked you for, nor you should give that information. Really what you need to focus on, you need to focus on your experience, you need to focus on your passion, and you need to focus on what you bring to that position. So again, no, you would not, it's illegal. You will not find a recruiter that asks you, do you have a Canadian experience? That doesn't happen. It just, I think it's how we present ourselves. The fact that you have the Canadian security scores, you literally, you know everything need to be known about the Canadian market. I've done it. It's 2 courses, 2 books. Literally, they give you all the information. So that's what you need to focus on. It's just how you present yourself, and then to practice a little bit more.
And I just want to build on what Mustafa said. So yes, nobody can legally tell you, I'm not going to hire you because you don't have Canadian experience. But let's be honest, you know, on the ground, people look at this local experience, and you often get overlooked you know, because of it. We know this is a real barrier. This is why we're trying to get you these champions inside CIBC. They're, you know, not having local experience is not a big roadblock with the people that you're going to be meeting. They know they're working with refugees. They're here to meet with you, so they know, you know, many of them are refugees or immigrants. So these champions, this is why you want to get one of these champions. You want to impress them. They don't care as much. It's not a barrier for them that you don't have the local experience, okay? So the director of this team, of their team for retail banking in Toronto, is a refugee. We actually did a coffee chat workshop with her. She's from Colombia. So they are really passionate and want to help refugees overcome those roadblocks. So that's not going to be as big a factor for the talent team. But, and you know, both the HR team as well as Jumpstart are trying to influence managers who make the decisions, the person at the branch to start appreciating that, as Mustafa said, the local isn't the most important thing. It's how good can this person communicate? How qualified do they seem? How what is their experience? How well do I think that they would do engaging with customers? So, we're going to do our best to remove those roadblocks by creating this opportunity with CIBC with talent partners that aren't concerned about the local experience, and by the talent partners in Jumpstart, slowly, and this is a long plan, it's not going to happen overnight, slowly influencing their hiring managers to appreciate that there's a lot of value that somebody without local experience can actually bring. Next question.
Okay, so a lot of people are wondering, what is a good question to ask CIBC to show that we are smart and interested?
Sure. So let's keep in mind that we only have a speed interview 10 minutes. So you're not going to get a lot of time. And if you do get time, I'm not even sure if you'll get to ask a question. When they call you back after the speed interview the following week and they give you feedback, you'll definitely have time to ask them a question and one last opportunity to impress them when you get a call back. But so if you are going to ask a question or they give you an opportunity to ask it, keep it really brief. It shouldn't be tell me what it's like to work at CIBC, and they need to talk for 5 minutes to tell you. So they just need to be a little more, concise. I think the example that we talked about before was a good question. I'm just trying to think of,
guys, I want to remind you of one thing. I could tell you, to be honest, I'm not going to say questions because I could tell you now 1 or 2 questions, but those things I'm interested to know about CIBC, right? Those questions need to be a personal question of yours. I'm gonna tell you one thing that we've learned, and again, just being refugee, kind of sometimes those things kind of frustrate me. One thing we've learned sometimes that we go to HR people or employers, and then they tell us why we get most newcomers, refugees and immigrants, they kind of ask and answer the same things. What we figured out that there are sometimes a list of answers or a list of questions, and everyone take those questions and go and they ask them in a way. So today, let's say that I'm gonna give you a question. I don't want 15, if I give you a question I'm interested on, and if 10 of you or 15 of you basically ask the same question, guess what? It's gonna be gone. They would know that basically that was not yours. You can do a little bit of research. Literally, you can go on Google, for example, what are good questions to ask in an interview? And combine those with some of your research on CIBC. I can guarantee you'll come up with 2 or 3 questions.
So I'll give you a couple of good questions because they're, so one of them will already be answered before the interview. So you definitely don't want to ask it, which is the call center positions, right? Is it going to be at home? Is it virtual? That could be a good question. Other questions, let's say you're a parent. You could just ask what sort of, parent programs, do you guys have for mothers? If I'm a mother and that's really important because I got to worry about my kids and my daycare, that might be a good question. So Mustafa said, it's what questions really matter to you. Think about if I'm going to work at CIBC, there's something that I want to know that only somebody working at CIBC would know. That's the kind of question that I would want to ask. And as Mustafa said, we can't give you those questions because suddenly if half of you are all asking those questions, it's not going to reflect well on any of you. So so we'll move on to the next one. Charlotte.
Okay, so Abby asks, can being overqualified impact negatively on your chances for an interview with the hiring managers?
Okay, so definitely not with the talent partners. In fact, this, even if you're much more qualified than a bank teller role, once they see your qualifications, remember what they're going to do is they're going to try to figure out what you're qualified for, and then they're going to look for opportunities for you. So having an MBA or a CPA, these are not negative things. These are actually positive things because they're going to work. They don't want to have you underemployed. They appreciate just as much as we do that they lose out by having a CPA answer basic, client questions over the phone. So they'll work with you that. In terms of the hiring managers, that's difficult to say. I really don't know. That's a good question. Whoever asked for that. So not everybody asked it. Whoever wrote this, Abby, that could be your question to the HR team. I would be inclined to say, at least when you're meeting with the talent team, if you're overqualified for these roles, don't worry about it. This is just you getting on their radar, and then they're going to work to find a role that makes sense for you. These are the roles that they're actively looking for, but if they champion you, they'll look for other opportunities for you as well.
Okay, we've had some people with their hands raised for a while, so we'll try this out again, and if it doesn't work, we'll just continue with the chat. So maybe Mercy Osei, if you would like to ask your question live since your hand has been raised. And if this doesn't work, we'll move on to the next person. So
remember to unmute yourself, Mercy, if you're still there.
Mercy, if you're able to unmute yourself to ask your question, that would be great. If not, we'll move on to the next person. Parmod Kumar, you've had your hand raised for a while. And
we would need you to unmute, Parmod, if you're there.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
Mercy.
Mercy.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah. My question was actually, what is the specific question I can ask the interviewer specifically? Because most times when we go through review questions, you could meet a different situation during the interview.
Yeah. So are we talking about the question, like at the very end, the interview?
Yeah, at the very end, when I should ask the interviewer a question.
Honestly, Mercy, there's no right answer. It really comes down to, what do you really want to know, right? So for example, let's say, you don't have dental and eye care, and like there's all these insurance that's very important to you. So you just ask them, like, look, I have a family, and so, extended health insurance is very important to me. Does CIBC offer that, or when do you offer that? That could be a kind of question, because that matters to you. I just gave the example. Maybe if you're a parent, or, a single mother, so you want to try to understand, do they have, any programs, maternity or any sort of daycare, or any programs for mothers that might be important for you. Somebody who might want to advance their career, just say, look, do you have any, or maybe they were a manager in previous roles, they might ask, well, look, I'm just curious, and I want to build my career with CIBC. Like, are there opportunities for management training programs at CIBC? That might be a question. And I'm going to stop there, because again, I don't want everybody.
Yeah, you got, that's it. Thank you so much.
It really depends on what you are really want to know. And now you have this opportunity. Somebody who's inside CIBC, you're not going to find that information on their website, but that's
to be honest, Mercy, again, I echo Balaz, and I'm going to say this again. So it's all about what you're really curious about. You got to put your own personality in the question by doing some. And while I said I'm not gonna say questions, but actually I'm gonna tell everyone the question I asked in my interview back in the day with TD at that point. So TD, what I went and did research. In that year, TD was, for the 6 years, won the best customer service basically bank in Canada. There was like an award on it. My question at that point, and I was really curious, it was like, and I went to the interviewer and say, how did TD was able, for example, as a bank, to obtain and continue to do that kind of a perfect customer service experience for 6 years? And how, if I get selected, I can contribute and be part of the team to kind of, make sure that TD will keep building on this, right? So that was something I was interested in, but at the same time, it was combined with a research I did on the bank. So that was, for the interviewer, when I went back and I talked to her, she was like, that was a really good question. So again, your curiosity is one, and then also your research. So combine 3 things. Look on the online, everyone, basically some of the good questions to ask. Do research on CIBC, and then pick something that you would like to ask at that point. If you do it and if you put your own personality, I think you will have a question. Just try to avoid those, again, what we're trying to tell you, try to avoid those common questions that everyone asks. How long do I need to get back to me? You know, what's the range of this? How long is it? How many hours do I need to work? Is it going to be, so those try to avoid this and just try to come up with your own questions that represent your own curiosity.
Again, I just want to remind everybody, this is a 10-minute interview, so don't ask a big question. Like Mustafa's question is a big question. Don't ask a big one. Ask smaller questions during this 10 minutes. But as Mustafa said, I'm glad everybody's asking these because it really shows you how important they are. When I interview people, I literally take a note of what question did they ask me at the end, because it shows me how that much that person is really interested in working for me, not just because they want a job, but they really want to work for this job and they really want to work for my company. That's number one. And number two, it shows me how well they've researched by asking me questions. I could tell that they really care. They spent the time, they wanted to learn. So this is actually a very important part of the interviewing process. I'm glad people are asking it. I wish, you know, maybe that's something that we need to think about, is doing a whole session on, you know, more of the, and spending a lot more time on the questions. Maybe that's something we can consider in the future, but thank you for raising that, because these are really important and valuable.
Yes.
Can we go on to the next one, Charlotte?
Feedback, which is great. And thanks everyone for being patient. I know we're taking a while to answer these questions because we want to make sure we give you the best answers. And I just wanted to address one question that we're getting a lot. Everyone's asking if they can change which position they want to be interviewed for at the event. You can just email talent@jumpstartrefugee.ca. It's the email that you've been contacting.
Yeah, we're going to call them, Charlotte.
Yeah,
so everybody's going to get a call. Yeah.
So you can let us know on the screen call as well.
And even then, I was just going to add, like, don't worry. They're going to try to find the best fit for you as well. So you just kind of, it's like with anything. You tell somebody what you're interested in, that's important to them. But if they really feel like, okay, there's a bigger opportunity for you, you know, they'll work with you. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay, so now we'll have Parmod ask your question if you're ready. Just make sure you unmute yourself, please. Okay, maybe we lost. Oh.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Actually, my question is this. Actually, I have already registered for a IFIC, and I have one question. If I don't got selected in this interview, so we have another sessions in the upcoming days or not?
So we do these events with CIBC roughly once every 3 months. We took a kind of a break during COVID because these are usually in person. This is the first time we're ever trying this virtually. So yes, the plan is to have more of these. It probably won't happen like the week after. It'll probably happen, sometime after that. But I mean, I'll be straight up with you. If you've got the ethic, they're probably going to want to meet with you. Because as I mentioned before, that is something that the banks really look for, because it's, that person, it means that they understand Canadian banking and they actually have the ability to manage a lot of products that, somebody else wouldn't be. So I would say that your chances are pretty well. They're really interested in that.
Okay, sir. And okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll answer, I think we'll try to answer Babatunde again. If you want to try to ask your question, I know we tried earlier and there was a technical difficulty. If you're able to unmute yourself, you can try again. Otherwise, we can move on to the next person.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Babatunde. I just want to ask, there are some banks that they don't like giving them higher qualification, especially when they want to hire for advice center or customer service. we always believe that it's only people that completed the grade 12 or secondary school that they are going to hire. That if you have higher qualification, that you'll not be able to hire you. Whereas I have banking experience of like 13 years, and they don't want to hire us at the higher grade. So I don't know what advice can you give to us so that at least we can move forward on it.
So if I understood you correctly, you come with a lot of banking experience. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You just tell them that. They have one job. Okay. They're there to identify talent. That's what this HR team is there. They need to find talented people. And then their job is to go to all these people, the hiring managers, because the hiring managers, they don't look for talent. They look to the HR and says, okay, I've got this job. This is what I need. Send me some good people. So the HR, that's what they do. They find the talent and then they put it in front of the hiring managers. So if you're somebody that's extremely talented, they want to know. So, I think that talk to them about your experience, how, qualified that you are, that you want to work and restart your banking career here in Canada. If it means starting, as a customer service rep, you'll be happy to consider it. But at the same time, you have a lot more to offer, and you would be very excited to work with them on opportunities where you can contribute a lot more, right? So we had somebody at our last event. Not only did they have banking experience, they had IT experience. And those person actually got put up for a big, the kind of mid-level IT role, because, while they're largely focused on filling these 3 positions, that's, because that's what they have available right now that they're trying to fill. If they find good talent, they're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to put you in their system. They're going to keep their eyes open. And the moment they find something for you, they'll try to, create that opportunity for you by putting you in front of a hiring manager. So to all of those people that are obviously overqualified for customer service reps, by all means, don't let that deter you. Just go in, impress them, show them, that you can do a lot more and that you can, offer a lot, and that CIBC would be lucky to have you. And then, the talent at CIBC, they'll do their best to find, get you into the right role. Thank you for that question. Next one, please.
Okay, thank you. So I think Stanley's been waiting for a while. So if you are able to unmute yourself, Stanley, and feel free to ask a question. And we are getting a lot of questions, so we might have to end the session soon.
Okay, so guys, we're going to run till 7:10. I wish we can answer more of your questions. Keep in mind, every single one of you will get a call from us early next week. So if you have very specific questions, we'll be able to spend some more time with you one-on-one. Also keep in mind, we're not CIBC, so there's some questions we obviously can't answer, but we'll take another 5 minutes or so to answer a few more questions.
Okay, so Stanley wasn't able to ask a question, so we'll pass it to Amazing Star if you're able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's this question that almost everyone on this platform would be interested in, but for some reason they seem not to want to say it. But let me go ahead and ask this question. Now, what's the salary structure like working in a big bank like CIBC? I mean, with everyone's qualification, are they going to start us off, if we get hired, are they going to start us off as a general laborer, or they're going to start us off with a considerable amount of a good salary structure? That's my question.
I mean, like most organizations, especially a very, like you said, highly structured organization like CIBC, there's usually a range for each position. So you might be the most qualified person in the world. You might be an MBA, a CPA. If you get a call center position, there's a range for that position. So you can only make what's inside that range. And obviously for a call center position, that range is going to be much lower than what a CPA or MBA should obviously be earning, probably 3, 4, or 5 times that amount, right? If you get into an FSR position, again, there'll be a range. Maybe they start you off at the bottom of the range, maybe you're in the middle of the range, maybe you're on the high end of the range. But at the end of the day, the salary, especially with big organizations, is already very structured. You know, they can't give one person one, you know, salary and then pay the same person 5 times more for the exact same job. They only have a small range which they can move in. So again, you know, if you're a very highly qualified person and just go in there, impress them and let them know that you want to be considered for more than these positions, because there's a lot more than you can do. And hopefully if this talent person, you know, really champions you and tries to get you an opportunity for, you know, one of these more experienced roles, great. And then again, the salary really depends on the position. Each position has a range. I don't know what CIBC's salary ranges are. I can't speak for that, but that's what I can tell you about that. Thanks for that great question.
Okay, we'll have Eugenia ask your question if you're able to unmute yourself, please.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, thank you so much for this session. So my question was going to be about the slides. How soon are we going to be getting the slides for the interview prep session?
I mean, I'd probably tell you Monday morning or Monday,
Okay.
you know, early on Monday, just because we actually need to go and take a look at who participated in the event. Had they actually signed up before an event? So we just kind of need to go through the registry a bit, but our plan is to get to this to you on Monday. Somebody asked, when are you going to hear back about the invitation? We should expect an answer roughly around October 23rd.
Yes.
So that will be 6 days before the event. So again, when you get that PowerPoint, it'll explain to you what the process is. But again, first, I'm just going to repeat it. Everybody's going to get a call from Jumpstart team. We're going to talk to you, you know, get your postal code, try to find out what, you know, which of the jobs you might be interested in, and answer any of your questions. From there, we send everything over to CIBC. They get back to us on the 23rd. People get invited, and the event's on the 29th. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. One question that was asked by Juliet a while ago is finance, banking, and cash handling experience a must requirement for CSR?
Again, I can't speak for CIBC. You know, really what they're looking, if you actually look at the job descriptions, it doesn't even talk about, like, it's actually a very strange job description. They do it really different, but they don't actually even talk about prior banking experience. What they tell you is what's important to them. What they say is that they want you to be a problem solver. They want you to be, you know, good at client engagement. These are the things. So having sales and customer service experience and those kind of attributes is very important. But at the same time, I mean, let's be honest. If you already have past experience in banking, that, you know, obviously is a huge advantage, and it's something that they're going to be looking for. And beyond that, you know, I think it all comes down to your ability to impress them. If you can go there and show them that you're the right person for this job, you know, what this job would mean for you, why you think you would be great at engaging their customers and solving their problems, it's really up to you. You know, I can't speak to that. All I could say, you know, I'm not going to tell you it's a must because their job description doesn't say it's a must. I'm going to tell you it's a nice to have. But it's, you know, again, it really comes down to your ability to, you know, to show that you can, you know, really respond to their customers' needs.
And one thing to tell you guys, also working in a bank myself, and even if you go today and then ask tellers about this background, there are a lot of tellers, customer service, who don't have a finance or a previous banking experience. you would see a lot of people from art, from teaching background. You would see even many high school, even people who just finished high school, or even like doing their high school right now. So really, I think with the customer service, I would be more inclined to, they wanted to see, again, like that's what I put it back, just to go back. The communication, how you present yourself and how you talk about yourself, your commitment, how, you know, what are you going to get? Like, what do you want to get out of this job? Why you want it? And that's how they get their commitment. And if you are a good fit for it or not. And that's basically what it comes in terms of the skills that you have or not. So especially with the customer service role. I think that's a little bit different with FSR, because FSR basically, like it's a more technical, you need to give advice. Basically, you're advising people on their investments and all of that. So with the customer service, yes, as Malas says, it's nice to have, but it's not a must. Many people work in tailoring customer service that don't have that kind of background.
Yeah, because they're going to give you an intense training process. I don't know how long it is, but let's definitely say weeks. So you're going to learn everything that you need to succeed on the job. I think, you know, for them, your ability to take care of their customers, that's what they want to see in you. But both in terms of your background as well as how you present yourself. So we'll take maybe one more question. Again, please keep in mind, if we didn't get around to your questions, you'll all have the opportunity to speak with one of our staff persons early next week. We all have your contact information, so we'll be calling each and every one of you. But let's take one last question, Charlotte, before we wrap up.
So, Bayonle, we haven't heard from you. So if you wanted to ask your question and just unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate your presentation today. Grateful for the invite. I have a question. Presently, in Canada, I have several years of banking experience. Presently, before now, I work in customer service, recovering for Capital One credit card. Presently, I work in the debt recovery department. I also have debt recovery licenses in about 6 or 7 provinces. What role can I apply for?
Again, I want you to keep in mind that they're largely looking to fill these 3 positions. Okay. These are positions that the hiring managers came to them and say, I have job openings right now. We need to fill these positions. So if you're looking for something that'll be more immediate, again, I'm going to say days, weeks, you know, this is what they're looking to fill. Now, clearly somebody as talented as yourself, again, in the interview, let them know, look, I believe I have a lot to offer CIBC. You know, I come with these, you know, like you said, the debt recovery, and talk to them about your accreditations. They're going to see that on your resume. So let them know, look, I'm open to other opportunities as well, where if you feel I can contribute to those roles, I think I have a lot to offer. And then, you know, again, they're going to, you know, if they choose, they're going to be like, I want to work for Bayonle. I love him. He's great. I think he's going to be doing great at CIBC. They know what you can do. They're going to be looking for these opportunities for you. So what I would suggest to you is, again, let them know what you're capable of. Let them know that you're open to other opportunities besides these 3 roles. And if they're really impressed, they'll work to find the right opportunity for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad, you know, great to close our last question with and get to see one of our participants. I know it's mostly been us and on the video camera, but I want to thank everybody again. I want to especially thank Charlotte. She's been on the, you know, backstage the whole time, and then now in front of the camera here during the Q&A. I want to thank Mustafa for all of his work to create these opportunities with the CIBC. And I want to thank you all for showing, you know, your interest. Again, I just want to remind everybody, and we appreciate it. You know, this is what we do every day. We know times are difficult, and we know that you face more barriers than others. And that's what we're trying to do, not just with this event, but with, you know, with our programs. And we're going to be trying to, you know, do more and more now that we kind of have figured out, you know, how to work through COVID and do more virtual programming. We will work hard to create opportunities where we can remove some of these barriers that you're facing. We wish you, all the success in the world. We look forward to speaking with you next week. What I would say again is use that interview prep workshop that we're going to be providing, whether it's this or any other opportunities. It's hard enough to get the interview. You all know that. So when you get that interview, you want to do the best job that you can. And that all comes down to, as Mustafa and I and Charlotte have all talked about, being prepared. The more prepared that you are in advance, knowing what questions that you're going to ask, preparing your answers, having your stories ready, the more likely that you're going to do well and really impress the person that you're meeting with. Again, thank you all for spending so much time with us. We went well over time tonight. We look forward to meeting with all of you next week and look forward to supporting as many of you as we can to connect with CIBC. Thank you.